My wife sat across from me on our blue sofa, her arms pulled tightly over her chest. She looked me straight in the eyes, her gaze steady and unmoving, and said the words that would change our lives forever. I am not going to stop talking to my ex just for you. I did not start an argument. I did not raise my voice, and I did not let my anger take control. I simply gave her a small, quiet smile and answered, "Fair enough," at that moment. She thought I had finally given up and let her have her way. She thought I was just accepting things as they were. She had no idea that inside my heart, I had just made the biggest and most painful decision of our entire marriage. I want to tell you my story. My name is Ethan, and I am a 36-year-old man. I draw plans for big buildings for a living, which means I spend my days thinking about how to make things strong and how to keep them from falling down. I have always believed that you do not build trust by making big, flashy promises. Instead, you build it through the small choices you make every single day. My wife, Jessica, is 34. She works as a manager helping people at a very large company. We had been married for 6 wonderful years, or at least that is what I thought. Up until very recently, I truly believed our love was the kind that could get through any storm, no matter how hard the wind blew. But there was a shadow in our house that I could not ignore, and his name was Aaron. Aaron was the man Jessica used to love before she met me. She always told me they were just friends, and for a long time, I tried my absolute best to believe her. It started with very small things. They would send each other a quick message on their birthdays to say hello. But then, those small things began to grow like weeds in a garden. Soon, there were phone calls that lasted a long time. Then came the lunches together during the workday, and eventually, they were even meeting up for coffee on the weekends. Whenever I brought up how this made me feel sad or worried, Jessica would just laugh it off. She told me I was being silly and that I was just feeling insecure. I wanted to believe her because I know a marriage is built on trust. But I also knew that trust needs some simple rules to keep it safe, just like a building needs a strong base. One Friday night, we were sitting down for a quiet dinner together at home. It was supposed to be our time to talk about our week. Suddenly, Erin called her phone. The moment Jessica saw his name on the screen, a bright smile lit up her face in a way I hadn't seen in a while. She told me she would be right back and walked out onto the balcony, closing the door behind her. She stayed out there in the cool night air for almost 30 minutes while our dinner sat on the table and got cold. When she finally came back inside, I kept my voice soft and kind. I asked, "Is everything okay?" She nodded and said that Aaron was just going through a hard time because he and his girlfriend had broken up. I took a very slow, deep breath to stay calm. I asked her if she really thought it was okay to talk to him that much when we were trying to have a nice dinner. Her smile vanished instantly and her face turned hard. She told me he was her friend and she needed to be there for him. I told her I understood that he was a friend, but I reminded her that he was also the man she used to love. She put her fork down on the table with a loud clatter and asked what I was really trying to say. I told her I was asking if she was willing to put some space between them to make our marriage feel safe and special again. Without even stopping to think about it, she looked right at me and said she would not cut him out of her life just for me. The room went very, very quiet. I waited for her to say something kinder, or maybe to say she was sorry, but she didn't. She just said I either trusted her or I didn't. I looked at her for a long time, gave her that small smile, and said, "Fair enough." The next morning, Jessica looked happy and relieved. She thought I finally understood her point of view and that our problem was gone. I just nodded my head and went about my day. She didn't realize that in that 1 second on the balcony, I stopped trying to fight for a marriage that she didn't seem to care about as much as I did. I didn't bring up the fight again. Jessica didn't either. She acted like everything was perfect. She laughed while eating her breakfast, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and drove away to work with a big smile on her face. I watched her car go down the street until it was out of sight. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was being crazy or mean. Her answer had told me everything I needed to know. She had picked his feelings over mine. Now, it was my turn to make a choice for my own life. Instead of shouting or making a scene, I went to see a lawyer who helps families when they can't stay together. I wasn't trying to be mean or get back at her. I just wanted to see the truth of what was happening. The lawyer was a kind person and asked if there were other problems in our home. I told him about all the lies. Jessica had told me many times that they weren't seeing each other as much as they actually were. I had proof because she left her private messages open on our computer tablet at home one day. They weren't romantic messages, but they showed she was giving him all her heart secrets. They talked late at night when I was asleep. They had secret lunches they didn't tell me about, and she lied about where she was going when she went out. The lawyer told me that having boundaries for your feelings is just as important as having rules about not cheating. I knew he was right. In a marriage, your partner should be the main person you turn to when you are sad or happy. That night, Jessica came home looking very happy. She told me she had lunch with Aaron and waited with a look on her face to see if I would get mad. I didn't. I just stayed quiet and asked if the food was good. She thought my silence meant I was finally okay with her friendship. But really, my silence meant I had stopped trying to fix something that was broken. A week later, we went to a birthday party for someone she worked with. Aaron was there, even though she hadn't told me he would be invited. As soon as we walked into the room, he ran over to her and gave her a very long hug. It wasn't just a quick hello between friends. It was the kind of hug you give someone you are very close to. Other people at the party smiled and watched them like this was a normal thing to see. It made me feel like a stranger in my own life. She introduced us, and Aaron told me he had heard a lot about me. I bet he had. All night long, those two talked to each other more than they talked to anyone else. They laughed at old jokes from years ago and acted like no one else was in the room. On the drive home, the car was dark and quiet. I asked her a simple question. I asked if she would be happy if I spent that much time with my ex-girlfriend and hug her that way. She looked out the window and didn't say anything for a whole minute. Finally, she whispered, "No." That one word told me everything I needed to know. She knew it was wrong, but she did it anyway. She tried to say it was different for her, because they were special friends. But I told her that people only say things are different when the rules only help them. I told her that being loyal isn't just about not kissing someone else. It is about protecting your marriage before things even have a chance to go wrong. She had nothing else to say for the rest of the night. The next weekend, I asked her to sit with me in the living room. I put a thick folder on the table between us. She looked very scared and asked what it was. I told her it was our future. When she opened it and saw the legal papers saying I wanted to end the marriage, her hands started to shake. She asked if I was really leaving her. I looked her in the eyes and told her I was leaving a marriage where my feelings didn't matter anymore. She started to cry big, heavy tears. She said she never thought I would actually go. She thought I would just get used to Aaron being around, and that I would eventually stop complaining. I told her I wasn't trying to erase her past, but I was trying to save our life together in the present. She sat there in silence, finally understanding the heavy price of her choices and what she had lost. 2 weeks later, we met at a small, quiet cafe before signing the final papers. She looked very tired, and her eyes were sad. She told me she had stopped talking to Aaron completely. She said she finally realized she was fighting harder to keep her ex-boyfriend in her life than she was fighting to keep her own husband. I listened to her and gave her a kind, gentle smile. She asked if we could try again and if I would come back home. I shook my head slowly. I told her that if she had picked our marriage before I had to pack my bags and leave, things might be very different. But she waited until I was already gone to care. She was too late. Months later, I found out from some old friends that Jessica and Aaron never actually stayed together. Once they didn't have the secret meetings or the drama of me being upset, their friendship just faded away. The relationship she refused to let go of ended up being nothing at all. As for me, my life is very peaceful now. I worked hard at my job, spent a lot of time with my good friends, and eventually met a wonderful person. She is kind, and she never makes me feel like I have to compete with her past. People still ask me why I smiled when Jessica said she wouldn't leave her ex. It's because I realized something important. You should never have to beg someone to care about your relationship or your heart. When loyalty is something you have to argue about every day, the end of the story is already near. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do for yourself isn't to stay and fight, but say fair enough, stand up, and walk away with your head held high. You deserve to be someone's first choice, not an option they pick only when they are afraid of being alone. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the ending. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.